Today I'm making one of our favorite homemade treats, soft, gooey cinnamon rolls. But I'm making them the easy way. I'm going to let my bread machine do all the mixing, kneading, and first rise. So if you've ever thought making homemade cinnamon rolls was just too hard, I want to show you a very easy way to make them. Welcome back to Curvy Creek Farm. Around here, I love to make things from scratch, but that doesn't mean that I won't use something that makes life a little easier. And my bread machine is one of those things. Today, we're going to be using the dough cycle of our bread machine to make our dough for our delicious cinnamon rolls. Then we'll fill it with butter, sugar, cinnamon, and bake it in the oven. So grab a cup of coffee and spend some time with us in the kitchen. I love using recipes like this because it takes simple pantry ingredients and it turns it into something really special. The recipe that I'm using is my mother-in-law's recipe for butter-rich rolls. And you can use this one if you want to just make plain dinner rolls out of it. But of course I use it for delicious cinnamon rolls. So the recipe calls for a cup of milk, and I actually use Carnation evaporated milk. I just find that it gives it just a little bit more richness. So we need a cup of that, a half cup of butter at room temperature. That's just a stick of butter. You need a 1/4 cup of sugar, 2 large eggs slightly beaten, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, 4 cups of all-purpose flour, and a package of active dry yeast. Now let's put all of our ingredients into our bread machine. This is the pan that it goes in. And I just assemble everything right into this pan. But there is this particular order that you need to follow for things in a bread machine. Your wet ingredients need to be on the bottom and your dry ingredients on top. And then you put your yeast on top of your dry ingredients. So this is my cup of milk and butter that I melted. I just put it all in one cup here. So I'm adding 1 cup of milk and a 1/2 cup of butter. To that I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of sugar. I need to add my 2 large eggs that I just beat up just a little bit. I need 3/4 teaspoon of salt. So there's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. And then I need to add 4 cups of all-purpose flour. I went ahead and measured all of this out to make it a little bit easier. And on top of this, I'm going to put what is a package of active dry yeast, but I know that that's 2 1/4 teaspoon of active dry yeast. I keep my yeast in the refrigerator because I buy it in bulk. I usually make myself just a little well in the middle of my bread flour, little hole, and a 1/4. So sprinkled on top of the flour is my active dry yeast. And that's it. That's all you need to do. Then I will take this, drop it down in my bread machine, and I'll be right back. All right, here is my bread machine. This bread machine was actually one that I got when we first got married. It was a wedding gift. So this bread machine is around 29 years old. So I'm going to drop my pan down inside here. Put it down. There we go. It just sits down in there until you can tell that it's sitting down in there nicely. Close it up. Switch it over to dough. And you don't need to worry about any of the baking controls or the size of the loaf because you're just going to do dough. And then I just hit start. And it will start mixing. And then I'm just going to walk away and clean up my mess waiting for, it says an hour and a half. I'll come back in an hour and a half and we'll make up our cinnamon rolls. The timer just went off on my bread machine, so that tells me that it went through its first rise. All right, this is what my dough looks like. Oh, you can see it is so soft and just absolutely perfect. Okay, so here's my dough, and I'm just going to start using my fingers. I just washed my hands again, so it's fine. So I've worked it out a little bit with my hands, and now I'm going to switch over to a rolling pin that's going to help me get it a little bit thinner and spread out more evenly. So I'm looking for a large rectangle. I have just used my hands before, or you can use a large rolling pin. I just like this small one. Okay, that looks about right. And that looks good. Okay, so now I take a stick of butter that I have really softened in the microwave. I don't really want it to be completely melted, but I have it very soft so that I can work with it. And I'm just going to smear that all over my cinnamon, or all over my dough. This is definitely kind of messy, but that's okay. As with everything in my kitchen, if you're making a mess, you're having fun. All right, here's my butter. It's all smeared out onto my dough. And the next step is a cup of white sugar. And I just spread my sugar out. I might not need a whole cup, but then again, I might. Can you ever put too much sugar in cinnamon rolls? I don't think so. Okay, so that's about a cup. And then the last thing we're going to put on here is cinnamon. And again, can you put too much cinnamon in a cinnamon roll? I don't think so. So I just go through and sprinkle what I think looks like enough cinnamon. You may want more, you may want less. It just is up to you for this part. If I'm going to eat a cinnamon roll, I want it to be nice and cinnamony. Okay, and that's it. Now, you will start at the farthest end of the dough, farthest away from you, and I just start rolling it up. Just start rolling it. And I always notice that I sort of pull my dough and then tuck it. Pull and tuck. This dough makes such delicious rolls. It's the best recipe. I first had this recipe when Jason and I first got married. Well, the first year after we got married, we went to Alaska, which is where Jason grew up. My mother-in-law made us these rolls. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. And then she pulled out her cinnamon rolls from it, and life has just never been the same. Her cinnamon rolls are absolutely to die for. Okay, and then I just go through and pinch the ends of it, squeeze it just to sort of make it even. I'm gonna butter my pan. This recipe is not for someone who's on a diet, because as we all say in the South, more butter, more better. So I am buttering my pan. All right, now I need a knife, and I've seen people use like dental floss or things like that. That's a little too fancy for me, so I'm just using a plain old knife. And I usually start by making one cut in the center, or what I think is the center, so that I know now that however many I cut on this side, I want to cut this many on this side. 5 cuts. Here's one. And when I take it, I pick it up, and you can see there's my swirl in there. And I'll just start putting it in my pan. Here's 2. 3. 1, 2, 3. Might want to scoot them apart just a little, because when they rise, I want them to have some room to rise together, but apart just a little. Okay, so that's the way I put them in the pan. And then I'm going to cover it with just a dish towel, just an old dish towel. Let it rise on my stove. These rise for about 25 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. I'll start looking at them. And when they are ready, I'll show you what they look like before I put them in the oven. So our cinnamon rolls have risen, and they've almost doubled in size. So I have my oven set to 350 degrees, and I'm going to bake them for about 20 minutes. While we're waiting for our cinnamon rolls to continue to bake, I'm just going to make up my glaze. I use some powdered sugar, and this is definitely not an exact measurement. I just put let's start out with about a cup of powdered sugar. And to that I add enough evaporated milk to just start making it a little thin. Okay, that's definitely not thick enough. So I need to add a little more powdered sugar. I can tell it's not thick enough. It needs to be a little thicker, so I'm going to add more powdered sugar. And I'm also going to add about half a teaspoon of this vanilla bean paste. I like the consistency that this is starting to become. Maybe just a little thicker. Okay, there's my cinnamon rolls. I'm going to go take those out of the oven. Okay, so here they are coming out of the oven. I'm going to let them sit here for a few minutes and cool before I put our glaze drizzle all over them. My goodness, I really wish you could smell these. They smell absolutely delicious. Now these have been cooling for about 5 minutes, so I'm just going to start drizzling these with my glaze. And I just smear it all over them. And there you go. Let's try our cinnamon roll. It's very soft. Here you go. Just wanted to show you what it looks like. Trust me, you're going to want to try this recipe. Thanks for spending some time on Kirby Creek Farm. We hope you come back, where you're always going to find simple living in a busy world.